What is space colonization? Space colonization, also called space settlement or extraterrestrial colonization, is the hypothetical permanent habitation and exploration of natural resources from outside planet Earth. The two most common in favor of colonization are survival of human civilization and the biosphere in the event of planetary scale disaster, natural or human made, and the availability of additional resources in space that could enable expansion of human society. Table of contents. What is the purpose of space colonization? The primary argument calling for space colonization is the long-term survival of human civilization and terrestrial life. By developing alternative locations off Earth, the planet species, including humans, could live on in the event of natural or human-made disasters on our own planet. How close are we to space colonization? The moon gets a little less attention these days, but scientists have estimated that we could build a colony there over the span of 6 years and for little as $10 billion. What is the future of space colonization? SpaceX has been a dominant leader in this push for efficient exploration with the release of the Falcon 9, a reusable rocket. NASA's Artemis program aims to land another man and the first woman on the moon by 2024 and eventually establish sustainable space travel by 2028. Why we shouldn't colonize space? Another potential use raised by those opposed to space colonization is that it could lead to space-based arms race, sowing the seeds for devastating conflict back home on Earth. If individual nations or companies establish colonies, this could lead to conflict or even war, as different groups try to stake claims. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Avinash of class 12B. Here on today I am going to talk about the topic called benefits of space colonization. Protecting our planet and environment, satellites provide data on climate change, measure pollution and help protect our planet, enhancing safety on Earth. Satellites data can be used to predict natural disasters and to support emergency relief efforts. Cooperating with countries around the world. Canada is a partner of the International Space System, a research laboratory in space. Improving child health care. Experiments performed in space helps us understand health problems on Earth, improving our day-to-day life. Space technologies improve products we use every day, weather forecasts, communications worldwide. Sparkling youth interest in science, astronauts encourage young people to study science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you.
I am Pranavaru of class 12B, here to speak on topic terraforming. Terraforming is the hypothetical process of deliberately modifying the atmosphere, temperature, surface topography or ecology of a planet to be similar to the environment of Earth to make it habitable by Earth-like life. While Mercury, Venus and the Moon have been studied in relation to the subject, Mars is usually considered to be the most likely candidate for terraforming. Para-terraforming, also known as the Waldorf concept, para-terraforming involves the construction of a habitable enclosure on a planet that encompasses most of the planet's usable area. The enclosure would consist of a transparent roof held on 1 or more kilometers above the surface, pressurized with a breathable atmosphere. Biological terraforming. Many proposals for planetary engineering involve the use of genetically engineered bacteria. Microbiologists know that synthetic biology has given us a remarkable toolkit that can be used to manufacture new kinds of organisms and investigate our chosen microbes, find the genes that code for the survival and terraforming properties that we want, like radiation and drought resistance. Adapting humans. It has also been suggested that instead of terraforming a hostile environment, humans might adapt to these places by use of genetic engineering, biotechnology, and cybernetic enhancements. Issues. Economic issues. The initial cost of such projects as planetary terraforming would be massive, and the infrastructure of such an enterprise would have to be built from scratch. Such technology has not yet been developed, let alone financially feasible at the moment. Political issues. National pride, rivalries between nations, and the politics of public relations have in the past been the primary motivations for shaping space projects. It is reasonable to assume that these factors would also be present in planetary terraforming efforts. Ethical issues. There is a philosophical debate within biology and ecology as to whether terraforming other worlds is an ethical endeavor. On the terraforming side of the argument, it is believed that it is humanity's moral obligation to make other worlds suitable for life. The opposing arguments post that terraforming would be an unethical interference in nature and that given humanity's past treatment of Earth, other planets may be better off without human interference. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Teen of Class 12B here. Today I'm going to be talking about the topic closest planets which can be terraformed. So, as you all know, terraforming is the process by which planets can be made to host life. Such planets which are capable for the survival of life but as of now do not have any life forms present on them are known as biocompatible planets. This is an illustration of the process of terraforming. So, when we talk about the closest biocompatible planets, the obvious choice is Mars, the red planet. And also a few of the larger moons of Jupiter and Saturn such as Europa, Callisto and Titan are also possible biocompatible planets. There are some other potential exoplanets which may be biocompatible. So when we want to terraform Mars, there are certain issues which have to be addressed. And one of them is the reduced light levels. This means that photosynthesis will be a difficult feat to achieve. The pressing issue is that unlike Earth, Mars does not have a magnetic field around itself. Thus, harmful ionizing radiation can easily penetrate its surface. And also there are certain other issues such as the toxic atmosphere and very low temperatures reaching an average of minus 68 degrees Celsius and etc. So if you want to terraform Mars, how do you overcome these issues? And one such method is creating a Martian greenhouse. So as you all know, greenhouses are considered harmful gases here on Earth. That's because they trap the heat which is liberated from the Earth's surface and reflect it back onto the surface. This increases global warming. But in the case of Mars, this is what we are trying to achieve. So by increasing the planetary temperature, we'll be melting the polar ice caps. So as these ice caps melt and form liquid water, it would increase the surface pressure by an appreciable amount. So the increased water vapor in the atmosphere would also suppress the toxicity to a certain extent. And other than this, we'd also have to increase the amount of sunlight reaching the surface of Mars.
Hello, my name is Pranav VS. I'm gonna talk about technology for space colonization. What technological requirements do we have? To colonize space, we need to advance our technology quite significantly. There are two requirements that we have: increased energy and technological development. At the moment, we don't have all the necessary technology needed to colonize space. Here are two ideas, one for technology and one for energy, that will help us conquer space. The Skyhook. A skyhook is a proposed momentum energy tether that aims to reduce the cost of placing payloads into low Earth orbit. We know that it takes a lot of fuel energy to take a very small object into space. This is bad as you need a lot of equipment for colonizing other planets. To take that much equipment, we would need exponentially more fuel, which is very cost inefficient. Just like how we have railways and highways that help us travel easily on the surface, we need one that helps us travel better in space. This technology is the Skyhook. The Skyhook is essentially a giant tether that orbits the Earth in low orbit while spinning. While spinning, the tether catches and throws our space shuttles towards their destinations. This will significantly increase speed of travel, and reduce fuel consumption. The Dyson Sphere. A Dyson Sphere is a hypothetical megastructure that completely encompasses a star and captures a large percentage of its power output. It is important to note that this idea is hypothetical, but that said, it is a very interesting technology that would help us with our expansion into space. To get that much energy with our present day methods, we will deplete all our resources. But instead, if we were to use the full potential of our sun, we could get more energy with lesser harm to our ecosystem. The Dyson sphere is like a solar panel around our sun that captures solar energy. The original idea from Freeman Dyson was to build a sphere of solar panels around it. But that would not work, as if a small space rock even breaks a small part of it, the whole Dyson sphere will collapse into the star. A better solution is something called a Dyson swarm. A Dyson swarm involves a lot of mirrors in orbit that reflect and concentrate sunlight onto solar collectors. These give the energy more efficiently. The easiest way to build this is by mining out mercury, which has all sufficient materials. Once we have the swarm built, we can use it for all our energy needs. Colonizing space becomes easy with the sun's energy at our disposal. We can use the energy on other planets like Venus to terraform its surface. We can even use this energy to terraform other planets or even travel farther distances. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Purandar and I'm here to talk about the viability of space colonization. The observable universe as we know it consists of 2 trillion galaxies, but humanity will ever only be able to reach a small portion of this universe called the reachable zone. This zone has an approximate radius of 18 billion light years. Although that's a lot, it's only 6% of the observable universe. But how do we see the rest if we can't reach them? That has to do with how we see things. You see, even at the speed of light, it takes millions of years to cover distances between stars. So by the time the light reaches us, the stars would have passed the reachable zone. But why can't we go past the reachable zone? That has to do with the fact that anything past the reachable zone is traveling at a speed greater than the speed of light relative to us, limiting us to the reachable zone. Now, out of the observable universe, the star distribution is not uniform. There are certain dense pockets of stars and certain regions of absolutely nothing. Our pockets of space is called the local group, only having a diameter of approximately 10 million light years, but only forms a very, very small part of the observable universe. Even beyond our lifetimes, this pocket is the most plausible region that is to be ever colonized by humanity. Thank you.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Space tourism is human space travel for recreational purposes. There are several different types of space tourism, including orbital, suborbital, and lunar space tourism. In 1984, Charles D. Walker became the first non-government astronaut to fly, with his employer McDonnell Douglas paying $40,000, which is equivalent to $99,641 in 2020 for his flight. As the shuttle program expanded in the 1980s, NASA let people with non-governmental roles or scientific roles to fly. Krista McAuliffe was chosen as the first teacher in space among other 17,400 applicants. Around 1,700 people applied for the Journalist in Space program. An Artist in Space program was also considered. NASA expected that after McAuliffe's flight, at least 2 or 3 civilians would be able to fly in one flight. Sadly, after McAuliffe was killed in the Challenger disaster in January 1986, the programs were cancelled. Dennis Anthony Tito became the first space tourist to fund his own trip into space, when he nearly spent 8 days in orbit as a crew member of ISS EP-1, a visiting mission to the International Space Station. This mission was launched by the spacecraft Soyuz TM-32 and was landed by Soyuz TM-31. In a project first arranged by Mirkov, Tito was accepted by the Russian Federal Space Agency as a candidate for commercial spaceflight. Tito met criticism from NASA before the launch, primarily from Daniel Goldin, at that time the administrator of NASA, who considered it inappropriate for a tourist to take a ride into space. The spacecraft docked with the International Space Station. Tito and his fellow cosmonauts spent 7 days, 22 hours and 4 minutes in space and orbited the Earth 128 times. Tito performed several scientific experiments in orbit that he said he would be useful for his company.
Spacesuits. A space garment is worn to keep a human alive in the harsh environment of outer space vacuum temperature extremes. Space suits are often worn inside spacecrafts, a safety precaution in case of loss of cabin pressure, and are necessary for extravascular activities EVA work done outside spacecraft. Space suits have been worn for such work in Earth orbit, on the surface of the moon, and en route back to Earth from the moon. Modern spacesuits augment the basic pressure garment with a complex system of equipment and environmental systems designed to keep the wearer comfortable and to minimize the effort required to bend the limbs, resisting soft pressure garments' natural tendency to stiffen against the vacuum. A self-contained oxygen supply and environmental control system is frequently employed to allow complete freedom of movement independent of the spacecraft. Three types of spacesuit exist for different purposes: IVA, intravascular activity; EVA, extravascular activity; and IEVA, intra-extravascular activity. IVA suits are meant to be worn inside a pressurized spacecraft and are therefore lighter and more comfortable. IEVA suits are meant for use inside and outside the spacecraft, such as the Gemini G4C suit. They include more protection from the harsh conditions of space, such as protection from micrometeorites and extreme temperature change. EVA suits such as EMU are used outside spacecraft for either planetary exploration or spacewalks. They must protect the wearer against all conditions of space as well as provide mobility and functionality. What is the spacesuit made of? A spacesuit is made of many parts. One part covers the astronaut's chest, another part covers the arms and connects to the gloves. The helmet protects the head, and the last layer covers the astronaut's legs and feet. Some parts of the suit are made up of many layers of material. Each layer does something different. Some keep oxygen in the suit, while others protect astronauts from space dust.
Types of space tourism. Suborbital space tourism. A suborbital space flight is a space flight in which the spacecraft reaches outer space, but its trajectory intersects the atmosphere or surface of the gravitating body from which it was launched, so that it will not complete one orbital revolution, it does not become an artificial satellite, or reach escape velocity. Scaled Composites won the $10 million X Prize in October 2004 with Spaceship One as the first private company to reach and surpass an altitude of 100 km twice within 2 weeks. The altitude is beyond the Kármán line, the arbitrarily defined boundary of space. The first flight was flown by Michael Mevel in June 2004 to a height of 100 km, making him the first commercial astronaut. There were no space tourists on the flight, even though the space vehicle has seats for 3 passengers. Instead, there was an additional weight to make up for the weight of passengers. In 2005, Virgin Galactic was founded as a joint venture between Scaled Composites and Richard Branson's Virgin Group. Eventually, Virgin Group owned the entire project. Virgin Galactic began building Spaceship Two class spaceplanes. The first of these spaceplanes, VSS Enterprise, was intended to commence its first commercial flights in 2015, and tickets were on sale at a price of $200,000, later raised to $250,000. However, the company suffered a considerable setback when the Enterprise broke up over the Mojave Desert during a test flight in October 2014. Over 700 tickets had been sold prior to the accident. A second spaceplane, VSS Unity, completed a successful test flight with 4 passengers on July 11, 2021. Blue Origin developed the new Shepard reusable suborbital launch system specifically to enable short-duration space tourism. Blue Origin plans to ferry a maximum of 6 persons on a brief journey to space on board the new Shepard. The capsule is attached to a top portion of an 18-meter rocket. The rocket successfully launched with 4 passengers on July 20, 2021 and reached an altitude of 107 km. Orbital space tourism. An orbital space flight or orbital flight is a space flight in which a spacecraft is placed on a trajectory where it could remain in space for at least one orbit. To do this around Earth, it must be on a free trajectory which has an altitude at perigee, altitude at closest approach, around 80 kilometers. This is by NASA, the US Air Force, and the FAA. As of 2020, Space Adventures is the only company to have coordinated tourism flights to Earth's orbit. The Virginia-based company has worked with Russia to use its Soyuz spacecraft to fly ultra-wealthy individuals to the International Space Station. The tourists include entrepreneur and business space investor Anousheh Ansari and Cirque du Soleil co-founder Guy Lalibert. Those missions were priced at around $20 million each. The space industry could soon be headed for a tourism revolution if SpaceX and Boeing could make good on their plans and to take tourists to orbit.
Astronaut. What is interesting about the definition is that space tourist could arguably qualify as an astronaut. The space tourist must have applied to a spacefaring company and would need to be selected by such company. Even if the selection criteria is just basic health conditions, before a tourist can embark on his or her maiden voyage into space. Once the space tourist is selected, properly trained on safety procedures and launched into outer space, the tourist would have easily satisfied all of the requirements needed to become an astronaut under this definition. In order to become an astronaut under Lyell's and Larson's definition, the person must be selected and trained. Hence, it is not enough that a person is in outer space conducting some form of activity, that the person must also have been selected for the activity that he or she is performing. This indicates that, like a worker is being directed to perform certain tasks, the selection element in this definition would suggest that certain criteria are used in choosing who become an astronaut, and hence the person would also have to meet these specialized requirements. Space tourist. Space tourist is someone who isn't trained in extraterrestrial endeavors but visits extraterrestrial land just as a recreational activity. Some space tourism was brought into popularity by Tito, who vacationed in space about 20 years ago. Since then, only a handful of people who are rich have followed his footsteps. Now, companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic are planning the next trip to space.
Good morning everyone. So today me and my team will be speaking on the topic the need for continuous space exploration. How far has humanity reached into the universe? Galileo Galilei was the first to discover that the Earth was round and along with other planets, it revolved around the Sun. Astronomers also observed comets with sparkling tails and meteors or shooting stars appearing to fall from the sky. This began the history of space travel. How far is it to the edge of the universe? The size of the whole universe is unknown, and it might be infinite in extent. Some parts of the universe are too far away from the light emitted since the Big Bang to have had enough time to reach the Earth or space-based instruments, and therefore lie outside the observable universe. In future, the light from distant galaxies will have more time to travel, so additional regions will become observable.
Good morning everyone, my name is Sayyid Muhammad here of class 12B. Today we will be speaking on the topic how space exploration works. Space exploration is the use of astronomy and space technology to explore outer space. While the exploration of space is carried out mainly by astronomers with telescopes, its physical exploration though is conducted both by unmanned robotic space probes and human space flights. How space exploration works. Analogs are environment on Earth that mimic the space flight condition. HRP uses several ground-based analogs including NVHAB in Germany, Antarctic Station, NEK in Russia, a human exploration research analog at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. These analogs offer a wide variety of environment to study how humans or biological samples change or adapt to spaceflight hazards. Step 2. The space station serves as an international scientific laboratory and a unique environment to study the interaction and effect of some of the hazards of human spaceflight. Step 3. NASA Space Launch System rocket or SLS will carry astronauts on board with Orion spacecraft to an outpost called Gateway. These are the various vehicles used in space explorations. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Vijayaraj of class 12A and I will be talking about the future of space exploration and human development. Space exploration started way back in 1969. and even now it is helping us improve our technology. This sector has become more commercial now. All you need is money and lots of it. Even you can go to space now. With this advance in space exploration, it is very much possible that within the next decade we can colonize Mars, moons, or even planets out of our solar system. Space exploration is crucial for human development. It can be the solution to the problems we face on Earth. Example, just imagine colonizing Mars. It will help solve the problem of increasing population growth and ever-rising shortages of resources like water. Space exploration is a massive opportunity for economic boom. For example, there are many elements that can be found in abundance in space, like lithium, boron. Harvesting these and selling them can definitely improve the economy. Just colonizing the moon can give us a lot of benefits. For example, we can build a solar power station on the moon, which can be very effective and reliable as there is a constant amount of sunlight hitting the surface of the moon. The moon can also be a source of construction material as it is very light in weight. These materials can be used to make satellites, which are then launched into space with much less energy. The moon's sky is clear to waves of all frequencies. This means the moon has the potential to become a telecommunications hub for interplanetary communications. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Jonathan of class 12B and we're going to see about the pros and cons of space tourism. Pros of space tourism. In addition to adding another outlet for thrill seekers, space tourism offers a new way to boost the world's economy. Space tourists will gain a deeper appreciation for our planet and hopefully want to take a more active approach to protecting it when they return to Earth. The amount of scientific and technical jobs will increase. Space tourism can spark the interest of children to study science, mathematics and engineering. Now let's talk about the cons of space tourism. Space tourism is not for everyone. Only the rich and powerful can gain access to space tourism. A single ticket may cost from $2 lakh to $2,50,000 and the prices will only go up in the future. There are cost considerations to look at with space exploration for the company as well as the passengers. Space tourists may be exposed to harmful radiation, space debris, etc., which may be dangerous for them. There may not be a reason to start exploring at this time. We should ask ourselves whether spending billions on space exploration is the right thing to do if you have the people dying of hunger on our planet. Over to Afan.
Hey everyone, this is Afan Javed and we're going to be talking about environmental benefits of space exploration. Improving healthcare. During space travel, astronauts are affected by microgravity, radiation, and isolation. Some of the changes in their bodies are similar to health problems associated with aging or a sedentary lifestyle. Science experiments performed on astronauts in space improve our understanding of medical conditions on Earth. This research has produced findings that can help people suffering from cardiovascular disorders, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and balance problems. Improving our day-to-day lives. Engineers in the space sector develop new cutting-edge technologies to accomplish seemingly impossible goals, and those technologies are often turned into products we use every day on Earth. For instance, did you know that the technology behind our tiny cell phone cameras was developed in an effort to miniaturize camera for spacecraft? Here are just a few spin-offs. Air purifiers, enriched baby formula, memory foam. Making scientific discoveries. Advancing knowledge in science. A great benefit of exploring space is new breakthroughs in science. Data collected by space probes, telescopes, rovers, and more is continually challenging our assumptions. In the last decades, we have learned that the number of planets, stars, and galaxies in the universe is much higher than we anticipated. Scientists have even discovered ice on Mars and the Moon, as well as liquid water on moons in our solar system. Thank you for watching our presentation.
Hello, I'm Harshita Kidharam of class 12B here to talk on neutron stars. Neutron stars are ancient remnants of stars that have reached the end of their evolutionary journey through space and time. Just a sugar cube of neutron star matter would weigh about 100 million tons on Earth. When they are formed, neutron stars rotate in space. As they compress and shrink, this spinning speeds up because of the conservation of angular momentum. The same principle that causes a spinning skater to speed up when she pulls in her arms. Neutron stars pack an extremely strong gravitational pull, much greater than Earth's. This gravitational strength is particularly impressive because of the star's small size. Thank you.
Warm greetings. My name is Madhusmita and here I am to talk about nebula. A nebula is a giant cloud of dust and gases in space. Some nebula come from the dust and gases thrown out by the explosion of dying stars. Originally, the term was used to describe any diffused astronomical objects. Most nebula are very vast in size, like some hundreds of light years in diameter. The Orion Nebula is the biggest one that can be found on the sky. Some nebula come from the dust that is already in the interstellar medium, while the others are produced by stars. Some types of nebula are the Omega Nebula, the Horsehead Nebula, the Cat Eyes Nebula, and the Red Rectangular Nebula. These are some of the facts that we can know about nebula. Thank you.
Exoplanets. Exoplanets are planets that orbit a star other than a sun. The prefix exo comes from the Greek and means outside. These worlds are far, far outside the solar system. Astronomers have confirmed more than 4,000 exoplanets orbiting distant stars. Exoplanets are of four types: gas giants, Neptunian, super-Earth, and terrestrial. Gas giants are planets the size of Saturn or Jupiter or even bigger. Neptunian planets are similar in size to Neptune or Uranus. They have similar composition of that of Neptune. Super-Earths are typically terrestrial planets that may or may not have atmospheres. They are more massive than Earth but lighter than Neptune. Terrestrial planets are Earth-sized and smaller, composed of rock, silicate, water, or carbon.
Hey guys, I'm Shruti from class 12B. I'll be giving a brief about Messier 87. Messier 87, also known as Virgo A or NGC 4486, generally abbreviated to M87, is a supergiant elliptical galaxy with several trillion stars in the constellation Virgo. One of the most massive galaxies in the local universe, it has a large population of global clusters, about 15,000 compared with the 150 to 200 orbiting the Milky Way, and a jet of energetic plasma that originates at the core and extends at least 1,500 parsecs. The French astronomer Charles Messier discovered M87 in 1781. M87 is about 16.4 million parsecs from Earth and is the second brightest galaxy within the northern Virgo cluster. M87 is near a high declination limit of the Virgo constellation abutting Coma Berenices. It lies along the line between the stars Epsilon Virginis and Denebola. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Sajid Darshan of class 12B and I will introduce the topic Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy, also known as Messier 31, M31 or NGC 224, and originally the Andromeda Nebula is a barred spiral galaxy approximately 2.5 million light years from Earth and the nearest major galaxy to the Milky Way. The Andromeda Galaxy was formed roughly 10 billion years ago from the collision and subsequent merger of smaller protogalaxies. This violent collision formed most of the galaxy's galactic halo and extended disk. During this epoch, its rate of star formation would have been very high to the point of becoming a luminous infrared. However, infrared data from the TOMAS survey and from the Spitzer Space Telescope show that the Andromeda is actually a barred spiral galaxy like the Milky Way, with Andromeda's bar major axis oriented 55 degrees anticlockwise from the disk major axis.
I am Varshini from class 12. Today I am going to talk about black hole. A black hole is a region of space-time where gravity is so strong that nothing, no particles or even electromagnetic radiation such as light can escape. The black hole center is called as a singularity, which has infinite density. It is a topic of great scrutiny due to its peculiar and massive weight and gravity. While traveling through a black hole, scientists theorize that we get spaghettified, as in we stretch and elongate due to its immense gravity. The event horizon is the boundary which marks the limits of a black hole. It is said that after the event horizon, traveling would be impossible as time ultimately stops in the space-time graph.
Hi everyone, I'm Amrita Varshini of Class 12C. Today I'm here to give an introduction about why do we need space tourism. After many decades in the making, space tourism is finally taking off in the 21st century. Civilians can now explore the final frontier and experience outer space for themselves. A regular tourist on Earth needs to research what you need to do, where you can go, how much it will all cost, and if you will be safe. The same goes for a space tourist looking to book a ticket out of Earth. Space tourism is an innovative business venture that provides private citizens a front seat to the stars. It provides tourists a unique experience of being an astronaut for leisure and recreational purposes. You can live out the astronaut dreams. Blasting off to space is no joke and is the most expensive holiday you will ever have. With space tourism, you can get closer to the stars in an orbital or suborbital flight. You can also float through zero gravity outside Earth's orbit. It all depends on how much you are willing to risk money and safety-wise. Thank you. Over to Pradesh.
Hello everyone, I'm Pradesh of 12C. So today I'm going to talk about how do we benefit from space exploration. So pushing forward the frontiers of science is the stated goal of many space missions. But even the development of space travel technology itself can lead to unintended yet beneficial spin-off technologies with some very down-to-earth applications. Notable spin-offs from the US space program, NASA, include memory foam mattresses, artificial hearts, and the lubricant spray WD-40. Doubtless, there are so many more to come. The lesson for the human species is that we keep all our eggs in one basket at our peril. On the other hand, a healthy space program and the means to travel to other worlds give us an out. Thank you. Now I hand over to Aishwarya.
We shall now see some more facts about the need for space tourism. Not only does space tourism extend the freedom to travel into space for those with the means, it provides a profitable market to develop the launch vehicles necessary to expand life throughout the solar system. Space tourism may also solve the single most difficult problem holding up the space settlement: safe and inexpensive transportation from the surface of the Earth to low Earth orbits. With the rising urge of space tourism, many scientists have come up with interesting innovations and major technological development. So it's safe to say it has definitely sparked curiosity in young minds to make this science fiction and reality. Over to Abhishek.
I'm Abhishek Kameshwaran of Class 12C. I'll be talking about pros of space tourism. Space tourism will increase the commercial activity in the time of poor state of world economy. Space tourism will become a new area of commercial endeavor and give employment to thousands of people. Manufacturing of new and better spacecraft will give employment to many skilled people. It will renew interest in space exploration. As a result, there will be more financial backing to support more innovations in the industry. Another big advantage is newsworthiness of this emerging industry. Anything that is new in this form of tourism will become news headlines. This will draw more investors, making the tourism companies sustainable. It will also help in identifying potential hazards dangerous for our planet. Allows us to view humanity from a different angle, rising above petty politics, conflicts, successes, failures, and love-hate feelings. Over to Sriram.
Hello everyone, I'm PVS Sriram and now I'll brief you the reasons why space tourism matters. 1. It frees space ambitions from traditional burdens. 2. Failure is now an option. 3. It will inspire a new generation of engineers. 4. The cost of reaching space will go down. 5. Hypersonic travel could become a possibility. 6. It will provide a new view of our planet. Thank you from the entire team of Group 5.
I'll be talking about suborbital spaceflight. Suborbital spaceflight is a spaceflight in which spacecraft reaches outer space, but its trajectory intersects the atmosphere or the surface of the gravitating body from which it is launched, so that it will not complete one orbital revolution or reach escape velocity. For example, the path of an object launched from Earth that reaches the Kármán line and then falls back to Earth is considered suborbital spaceflight. Flights which attain sufficient velocity to go into low and then deorbit before completing a first full orbit are not considered suborbital. Examples of this include Yuri Gagarin Vostok 1, the flights of 12 feet.
Hello everyone, my name is Yadapariti. Our topic is suborbital tourism. Before we get started, let's know about what is suborbital spaceflight. A suborbital spaceflight is a spaceflight in which the aircraft reaches the outer space, but its trajectory intersects the atmosphere or the surface of the gravity body from which was launched, so that it will not complete orbital revolution or reaches escape velocity. Orbital space tourism industry garnered much media attention following K2's flight. Other companies were also hard at work trying to make space tourism a profitable profession by developing suborbital space vehicles designed to take passengers to an altitude of 100 kilometers, 62 miles. In addition to the goal of making space tourism commercially viable, the companies were competing for Angson X Prize, a 10 million reward offered by the X Prize Foundation for the first non-governmental organization to launch reusable crew spacecraft into space twice within 2 weeks.
Requirements for suborbital tourism. Introduction. Suborbital space flight is a flight in which spacecraft reaches outer space but its trajectory intersects the atmosphere or surface of gravitating body from which it was launched, so that it will not complete one orbital revolution or reach escape velocity. The path of an object launched from Earth that reaches the Kármán line and falls back to Earth is considered a suborbital spaceflight. Suborbital spaceflight reaches an altitude higher than 100 kilometers or 62 miles above sea level. This altitude is known as Kármán line, was chosen by Federal Aeronautics International because it's roughly the point where a vehicle flying fast enough to support itself with aerodynamic lift from the Earth atmosphere would be flying faster than orbital speed. To reach 125 miles above Earth, a suborbital vehicle needs to fly at a relatively steady 3,700 miles per hour or 6,000 kilometers per hour. Although that is still much faster than a commercial airplane, which flies around 535 miles per hour or 925 kilometers per hour. Speed, range and altitude. For suborbital spaceflights covering a horizontal distance, the maximum speed and required delta vary are in between those of a vertical flight and a LOA. The maximum speed at the lower end of the trajectory are now composed of horizontal and vertical component. The higher the horizontal distance covered, the greater the horizontal speed will be. The vertical velocity will increase with distance for shorter distances but will increase with distance at longer distances. For larger range, due to the elliptical orbit, the maximum altitude can be reached much more than for a LOA. On a 10,000 km intercontinental flight, which are possible future commercial flights, The maximum speed is about 7 kilometers per second and maximum altitude may be more than 1300 kilometers. Any space flight that returns to the surface, including suborbital ones, will undergo atmospheric re-entry. The speed at the start of the re-entry is basically the maximum speed of the flight. The aerodynamic heating cost will vary accordingly. It is much less for a flight of maximum speed of only 1 km per second than for one with maximum speed of 7 or 8 km per second. Flight duration. In a vertical flight of not too high altitudes, the time of the free fall is both for the upward and the downward part of the maximum speed divided by the acceleration of gravity. So with a maximum speed of 1 km per second together is 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The duration of flight phase before and after the free fall can vary. For an intercontinental flight, the boost phase takes 3 to 5 minutes. The free fall mid-course phase takes 25 minutes. Suborbital flights can last from just seconds to days. Example, Pioneer 1 was NASA's first space probe intended to reach the moon. A particular failure caused it to instead follow a suborbital trajectory, re-entering the Earth's atmosphere 43 hours after launch. And this is the profile for the first crewed American suborbital flight in 1961. Launch rockets lift the spacecraft for first 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Flight profiles. Suborbital tourist flights will initially focus on attaining the altitude required to qualify as reaching space. The flight path will be either vertical or very steep, with the spacecraft landing back at its takeoff site. The spacecraft will shut off its engines well before reaching maximum altitude and then coaster up to its highest point. During a few minutes, from the point when the engines are shut off to the point where the atmosphere slowly begins to slow down the downward acceleration, the passengers will experience weightlessness.
Pros about suborbital space tourism. Space tourism will increase the commercial activity in the time of poor state of world economy. Space tourism will become a new area of commercial endeavors and give employment to thousands of people. Manufacturing new and better spacecraft will give employment to many skilled people. It will renew interest in space exploration and result there will be more financial backing to support more innovation in the industry. It would also help in identifying potential hazard dangers for our planet. Allows us to view humanity from different angles, raising above petty politics, conflict, success, failure, and love.
Cons about suborbital space tourism. Space travel technology at a nascent stage can make entering space a dangerous venture. Space travelers are likely to get exposed to harmful radiations from the sun. Outdated information can cause serious problems in space travel. It may spark unhealthy competition with those having superior technology. Experimentations and unsuccessful ventures may cause an unnecessary waste of resources. Lack of proper regulation and inadequate safety protocols can make space travel extremely dangerous. More space tourism ventures are likely to put the lives of astronauts at risk. Developing space programs and spacecrafts need a lot of money. That money can be utilized for the alleviation of poverty. Thousands of hungry people can be fed using that money.
Trupp was in private venture in charge of the space station Mir. To generate income for maintaining the aging space station, Mir Krupp decided to sell a trip to Mir, and Tito became its first passenger. Tito, who paid $20 million for his first flight on Russian spacecraft Soyuz TM-32, spent 7 days on board ISS, considered the world's first space tourist. Orbital space tourism continued to grow following Tito's mission, with the flight of the ISS followed by South African computer millionaire Mark Shuttleworth in 2002 and American businessman Gargoyle Altman in 2005. Iranian-born American entrepreneur Anousheh Ansari, who became the fourth space flight participant and the world's first female fee-paying space traveler. American billionaire Charles Simonyan joined the ranks of the spaceflight participant when he shared a ride with two comets on the board of Soyuz TMA-10 for 10-day stay at ISS. Simonyan made a second flight in the year 2009. The sixth spaceflight participant, American video game developer Richard Gargoyle, was launched in October 2008. In making his first flight, Gargoyle became the first second-generation American space since his father, Owen Gargoyle, was a former astronaut.
A spacecraft consists of mainly 10 parts. The instruments like magnetometer, mercury laser altimeter, which are basically tools which help for conducting researches and experiments in space. Storage structures to hold all equipments. Mechanisms which allow some parts of the spacecraft to be independent. Telecommunication machines for radio communication between Earth and spacecrafts. Antennas for data transfer. Propulsion for flight correction and getting the spacecraft into orbits. Command and data handling systems for data storage and processing. Guidance, navigation and control systems for proper orientation and guidance of spacecraft. The thermal systems which help in maintaining proper temperature and electrical power for providing electricity to the spacecraft.
Orbital spaceflight from Earth has only been achieved by the launch vehicles that use rocket engines for propulsion. The main proven technique involves launching nearly vertically for a few kilometers while performing a gravity turn and in turn progressively flattening the trajectory at an altitude of 170 plus kilometers and accelerating on a horizontal trajectory for a 5 to 8 minute burn until orbital velocity is achieved. There have been many proposed methods for achieving orbital spaceflight that have the potential of being much more affordable than the rockets. From 2015, SpaceX have demonstrated significant progress in more incremental approach to reducing the cost of the orbital spaceflight. Their potential for cost reduction comes mainly from pioneering propulsive land with their reusable rocket booster stage as well as a Dragon capsule. The initial stages of this improvement could reduce the cost of the orbital launch by an order of magnitude.
Deorbit and re-entry. The suborbital space flights, being at a much lower speed, do not generate anywhere near as much heat upon re-entry. Returning spacecrafts have to find a way of slowing down as much as possible while still in the higher atmospheric layers and avoid hitting the ground, which is called as lithobraking or burning up. For many orbital space flights, initial deceleration is provided by the retrofiring of the craft's rocket engines, perturbing the orbit by lowering the perigee down into the atmosphere onto a suborbital trajectory. Many spacecraft in low Earth orbit, example nanosatellites or spacecrafts that have run out of station keeping fuel or otherwise non-functional, solve the problem of deceleration from orbital speeds using atmospheric drag, which is called as aerobraking, to provide initial deceleration. Intentional aerobraking is achieved by orienting the returning spacecraft so as to present the heat shields forward toward the atmosphere to protect against the high temperatures generated by the atmospheric compression and friction caused by passing through the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds. The thermal energy is dissipated mainly by compression heating the air in a shock wave ahead of the vehicle using a blunt heat shield shape with the aim of minimizing the heat entering the vehicle.
A suborbital space flight, Virgin Galactic, has recently announced its space tourism program has been pushed to 2022. Finally, on May 22, 2021, from Spaceport America in New Mexico, Virgin Galactic successfully has performed its first human space flight from that location, putting the company on a path furthering the quest of human spaceflight and tourism. Axiom Space and NASA recently announced plans to launch the first private astronaut mission to International Space Station as early as January 2022 from Kennedy Space Center. Several more private Axiom Space missions are planned in the future. Indian Space Research Organization ISRO is planning to send the first group of astronauts into space between 2021 and 2022 for a duration of approximately a week. Astronauts, one of which is a female military pilot, is expected to be chosen for Gaganyaan.
Tourism beyond Earth orbit. Introduction, pre-written trajectory, DST Alpha, Dear Moon project and SpaceX involved projects. Now let's go to the introduction part on ongoing projects. Ongoing projects. In February 2017, Elon Musk announced that a substantial deposit from two individuals had been visited by the SpaceX for the moon loop flight using a pre-written trajectory, and that this could happen as soon as late 2018. Musk said that the cost of the mission would be comparable to that of sending an astronaut to the International Space Station, about $70 million in 2017. In February 2018, Elon Musk announced the Falcon Heavy rocket would not be used for crewed missions. The proportion changed in 2018 to use the Starship launch system instead. In September 2018, Elon Musk revealed the passenger for the trip, Yakisco Maezawa, during the live stream. Yakisco Maezawa described the plan for his trip in further detail, dubbed the Dear Moon project, intending to take 6 to 8 artists with him on the journey to inspire the artists to create new art. Elon Musk said that the Starship will be ready for an unpiloted trip to Mars in 2020. The crewed flight will follow in 2024. Space Adventures Limited have announced that they are working on DST Alpha, a circumlunar mission to the moon with the price per passenger being $100 million. Now let's go to the cancelled projects. Cancelled projects. Excalibur Almaz proposed to take 3 tourists in a flyby around the moon using a modified Almaz space station models in a low-energy trajectory flyby around the moon. The trip would last around 6 months, however their equipment was never launched and is to be converted into an educational exhibit. The Golden Spike Company was an American transport startup active from 2010 to 2013. The company held an objective to offer a private commercial space station service to the surface of the moon. The company website was widely taken offline in September 2015. The Inspiration Mars Foundation is an American non-profit organization founded by Dennis Ito that proposed to launch a crewed mission to fly by Mars in January 2018 or 2021 if they missed the first deadline. Their website became defunct by late 2015 but is archived by the Internet Archive. The foundation future plans are unclear.
In orbital mechanics, a free return trajectory is a trajectory of a spacecraft traveling away from the primary body, for example Earth, where the gravity due to the secondary body, for example the Moon, causes the spacecraft to return to the primary body without propulsion. Many free return trajectories are designed to intersect the atmosphere. However, periodic versions exist in which the moon and the Earth are constant purpose, which have been proposed for cyclists. The spacecraft to use free return trajectory was Soviet Luna 3 mission in October 1959. It used the moon's gravity to send it back towards the Earth so that the photograph it had taken of the far side of the moon could be downloaded by radio. Symmetrical free return trajectories were studied by Arthur Schwanger of NASA in 1963 with reference to Earth-Moon system. He studied cases in which the trajectory at some point crosses at right angle line going through the center of the Earth and the center of the Moon, and also cases in which trajectory crosses at right angle the plane containing that line and perpendicular to the plane of the moon's orbit. In both the scenarios, we can distinguish between the 1 and 2. The first scenario was the trajectory at some point crosses at the right angle the line going through the center of the Earth and the center of the Moon, and also the case in which the trajectory crosses at right angle the plane containing the line perpendicular to the plane of the Moon's orbit. The second scenario is where the spacecraft goes beyond the orbit of the Moon, returns inside the Moon's orbit, moves in front of the Moon while being diverted by Moon's gravity to the path away from the Earth to beyond the orbit of the Moon, and it is drawn back to the Earth by the Earth's gravity.
DSA Alpha. Deep Space Expedition Alpha, abbreviated as DSA Alpha, is a name given to the mission proposed in 2005 to take the first space tourists to fly around the moon. The mission is organized by Space Adventures Limited, a commercial spaceflight company. The plans involve a modified Soyuz capsule docking with a booster rocket in Earth orbit, which then sends the spacecraft on a free return circumlunar trajectory that circles around the moon once. The DSC proposal is to launch the Soyuz with one crew member and 2 passengers aboard. A Zenit rocket booster will then be launched carrying a rocket stage weighing up to 14.5 tons to dock with the Soyuz and propel it to circumlunar velocity. In 2011, Space Adventures projected the first mission could occur by 2015. By 2014, this had slipped to 2018, and the company's website subsequently changed to indicate they expected the first mission to launch before the end of the decade, then changed again to remove any suggested timeline. In January 2011, Space Adventures founder Eric Anderson announced that one of the 2 seats on the flight had sold at a price of $150 million, and negotiations for the second seat were underway.
Dear Moon Project. Introduction. The Dear Moon Project is a lunar tourism mission and art project conceived and financed by Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa. The Dear Moon Project passengers will be Yusaku Maezawa and 6 to 8 accomplished artists that Maezawa will invite to travel with him for free. 1 or 2 astronauts and an undetermined number of SpaceX pilots might also fly on board. Mission profile. Launch day 2023. Duration 6 days. Mission type crewed lunar flyby. Operator SpaceX. Crew size 10 to 12. Rocket SpaceX Starship. The trip will be funded entirely by Japanese entrepreneur Yusaku Maezawa. History. SpaceX announced plans to fly 2 space tourists around the moon in 2018 and 2023. One of the passengers was billionaire Yusaku Maezawa. At the time of the 2017 announcement, the Crew Dragon 2 capsule was still under development and the Falcon Heavy had yet to fly. In February 2018, SpaceX announced it no longer had plans to certify the Falcon Heavy for human spaceflight and that lunar missions would be flown on Starship, then called BFR. Then, on September 14, 2018, SpaceX announced that the previously contracted passengers would be launched aboard Starship to fly by the moon next year. The project was unveiled in September 2018 and the flight is expected to occur no earlier than 2020. Objective of the project. Maezawa expects this flight will inspire the artists in their creation of new art, which will be presented sometime after their return to Earth. He hopes this project will help promote peace across the world. He is motivated to lead this mission by his curiosity and desire to see and appreciate the Earth from afar. Thank you.
Space Exploration Technology Corp, also known as SpaceX, is an American aerospace manufacturer, space transportation service and communication company, which is founded in 2002 by Elon Musk with the goal of reducing space transportation costs to enable colonization on Mars. SpaceX manufactures the Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy Launch Vehicle, several rocket engines, Dragon cargos, crew spacecraft, and Starlink communication satellites. In 2001, Elon Musk conceptualized Mars Oasis, a project to land a miniature experimental greenhouse and grow plants on Mars. He announced that the project would be the farthest that life has ever traveled, in an attempt to regain public interest in space exploration and increase NASA's budget. Elon Musk tried to purchase cheap rockets from Russia but returned empty-handed after failing to find rockets for an affordable price. SpaceX developed its first orbital launch vehicle, the Falcon 1, with private funding. The Falcon 1 was expandable to storage to orbit small lift launch vehicle. The development cost of Falcon 1 was approximately 90 million USD to 100 million USD. SpaceX originally intended to follow its light Falcon 1 launch vehicle with an intermediate capacity vehicle, the Falcon 5. SpaceX instead decided in 2005 to proceed with the development of Falcon 9, a reusable heavier lift vehicle. The development of Falcon 9 was accelerated by NASA, which committed to the pursuit of several commercial flights with specific capabilities were demonstrated. This started with the seed money from the Commercial Orbital Transportation Service (COTS) program in 2006. The overall contract award was $278 million to provide development funding for the Dragon spacecraft Falcon 9 and demonstrate the launch of Falcon 9 with Dragon. As a part of the contract, the Falcon 9 launched for the first time in June 2010 with the Dragon spacecraft qualification unit using a mock-up of the Dragon spacecraft. In 2017, the company raised 350 million USD for a valuation of 21 billion USD. In 2017, SpaceX achieved a 45% global market share of the award commercial launch contracts. By March of 2018, SpaceX had more than 100 launches on its manifestation, representing about 12 billion USDs in a contract revenue. The contract included both commercial and government customers. This made SpaceX the leading global commercial launch provider measured by manifest launch.
Introduction. Future space tourism is another niche segment of the aviation industry that seeks to give tourists the ability to become astronauts and experience space travel for recreational, leisure, or business purposes. Space tourism is human space travel for recreational purposes. There are several different types of space tourism, including orbital, suborbital, and lunar space tourism. By 2007, space tourism was thought to be one of the earliest markets that would emerge for commercial spaceflight. Space tourism, recreational space travel, either on established government-owned vehicles such as Russian Soyuz and the International Space Station, or on vehicles fielded by private companies.
SpaceX linked its first deal to launch space tourism into orbit on a Crew Dragon spacecraft. SpaceX is also partnering with Space Adventures to send 4 tourists to low Earth orbit for a few days in late 2021 or early 2022. The private spaceflight company, founded by Elon Musk, had signed an agreement with the US space tourism company Space Adventures to launch up to 4 passengers on an orbital trip. The mission would last up to 5 days and could launch as early as late 2021. The historic moment will forge a path to making spaceflight possible for all people who dream of it.
It's launch check countdown. That pad is clear. Go for launch.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition, liftoff.
Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition. Dragon, separation confirmed. Separation visually confirmed. Mains have been deployed.
What does space tourism require? An all-round general fitness level is important and even required. Apart from space camp or zero gravity flights, a medical example is necessary to even qualify for space travel. You need to be between 160 centimeter to 185 centimeter in height and 50 kgs to 95 kgs in weight. Spacecraft must provide their passengers with oxygen to breathe. Spacecrafts carry their own source of oxygen and nitrogen. The guidelines require space tourism operators to inform space flight participants in writings about the risk of the launch and retry and about the safety record of the launch vehicle. The CSLAA guidelines also requires spaceflight participants to provide information concerned to participate in launch and retry.
How will space tourism mission look in the future? In the short term, it is likely that space travel tourism will continue to grow in popularity and that companies like Blue Origin will deliver suborbital space flights for paying customers. Meanwhile, orbital space flights will also be purchased by several enterprises. Looking forward ahead, however, interest in space tourism industry is likely really to take off when space tourism extends beyond Earth orbit, especially if the lunar mission becomes financially and logically feasible. With that being said, it is worth pointing out space travel is likely to remain extremely expensive for a foreseeable future. It is also physically demanding, which means that it will only be available to the people who pass the fitness tests and undergo training programs in preparation for their flight.
Hello everybody, this is Ananya from class 12B. Me and my team, Diya Jason, Reshma, Mahalakshmi and Vijita are going to present a project in the topic Advantages and Disadvantages of Space Tourism. We're going to start with the advantages of space tourism. I am going to start with the advantages of space travel. To start with, at our current state of the world, not only countries but also private corporations engage in the space travel market. However, if private space corporations can help us to achieve our space missions, this can be a great way to improve our overall chances for success of space missions in the future. In turn, chances are that the competition of various countries in the market will benefit humanity as a whole, since space companies will be more eager to invent new technologies to make processes much more efficient. Space exploration is also crucial to provide important research data to leading scientists from all over the world. In fact, the more the data we get, the better we will be able to understand how the universe works and what is still missing for the comprehensive understanding of how the cosmos actually works. Another important advantage of space travel is that it allows us to detect serious threats that could potentially wipe out humanity. For instance, through space exploration, we will be able to detect a meteorite that is on collision course with our Earth, and in turn, we could take measures to prevent this collision. Space travel is not only accessible for astronauts on official missions, but it will become possible for private persons in the near future, like you and me. In fact, there are companies out there who will offer space travel for private people.
We will also be able to learn a great deal about humanity. It is astonishing how small our Earth really is when compared to the other planets, stars, galaxies, or even the whole universe. By realizing this fact, many people who currently have a rather arrogant attitude will be far more likely to change their minds, since they realize that we don't really know what's happening around us, not at least as much as we think we do. Space travel is not easy and needs plenty of technology in order to be successful. Over the past decades, numerous inventions have been made. These inventions have not only been beneficial for space exploration, but the technologies have also been important in facilitating our daily lives. Thus, inventions in our current state of the world, numerous jobs depend on this industry, and chances are that many additional jobs will be created in the field of space exploration in the near future. Hence, this industry creates many job opportunities for people. Our Earth will likely not provide us with a suitable living space forever due to global warming and other environmental issues. We may have to leave our Earth behind sooner or later. This also implies that we have to explore space and find new planets that we may be able to colonize in order to secure the survival of the human species. Now, Reshma will give the next few advantages of space travel.
An upside of space exploration is that we as humans can realize our place in the universe, as we often think that we're the center of everything, and that is a given because we're a superior species. Through space travel, we realize that we are a grain of sand in this universe and that we aren't superior in any way. As by the end of the 21st century, the number of people on our planet will likely exceed the 10 billion mark. It is still uncertain how the whole population will be fed. Colonization of other planets will be necessary since we could run out of resources in the near future. This will help us deal with reducing the problems of overpopulation. Another benefit of space travel is that we may also find planets that are better suitable for colonization, and therefore space exploration is crucial in this regard, since only if we explore space will we find these colonization opportunities. Space exploration is not only important for humanity as a whole, but also crucial for a country. Many countries around the world have already noticed how important space travel really is and are trying their best to conquer space and claim territories up there. Even though it is not common knowledge yet, space provides us with plenty high amounts of resources, and the country that conquers those resources will likely have a quite lot of power over the next decades and centuries. Now Mahalakshmi will explain the further point.
Many people think it's a human duty to explore space and learn the dynamics of the whole universe. Space travel can make this collective dream of many people come true. Space exploration also provides a unique opportunity for scientists all over the world to work together for a bigger goal. People must exchange ideas to invent new technologies and make space travel more safer and efficient. Space exploration can help us install satellites in space so that we can access different TV channels, which makes our life more easier. And space exploration is also helpful by taking pictures of a planet and the universe. Moreover, it can be created into 3D maps which can be accessed via internet.
Creating those maps, we get a better impression of the structure of Earth and its location in the universe. Now Dia will tell more advantages.
As we all know, our fossil resources will become depleted sooner or later. And when we run out of natural resources, chances are that our technological progress will suffer significantly. Hence, if we want to continue to progress as a species and continue developing our technology, we need the additional resources that we could extract from asteroids. Space exploration may also help us find extraterrestrial life if they really do exist. It is important for us to leave our traces. Thus, through space travel, we increase our chances of encountering other life forms. In general, we as humans are curious creatures and want to learn and explore. The human drive to invent new things is big. Consequently, space exploration can give us the opportunity to really move forward as a species and satisfy the need to always progress and extend our knowledge. Space travel also gives us the opportunity to always experience and explore new things. Scientists believe that we as humanity only scratch the surface of what is still to explore out there, and we may know little to nothing up to this point in time about how the universe really works. We will now move on to the disadvantages of space exploration. Reshma will be telling you a few points about this topic.
Now we'll be moving on with some of the cons of space tourism. Space exploration also produces significant levels of waste, including the testing process of new rockets and space missions. Most of this waste is circling around the Earth in outer space, and we have to be careful not to make space a gigantic garbage dump. Space missions are quite expensive. Depending on the length and the goal of the respective mission, millions or even billions of dollars have to be used. Those against space missions often claim that this money could be far better used for projects that would facilitate the energy transition process from fossil to renewable energy sources on our Earth instead of wasting it for space travel. Even though space travel has become much safer over the past decades, it is still rather a risky project and the chances of accidents are still present. Hence, astronauts still have to enter a rocket with the knowledge that there will be a risk and that they will never come back home from their missions. The further points will be explained by Vijayata.
Another issue with space exploration is that these missions can often be quite time consuming, especially for longer missions. It can take several months or even years to complete these, and therefore space travel can be considered to be a long-term project that will not deliver too many immediate results. Due to the overall high level of insecurity of space missions, astronauts also suffer from mental health problems. This is not only because of the significant risk for the astronauts to never come back home, it's also because of the fact that they are quite lonely in space. Now, Dia will give the next few disadvantages of space tourism.
One important problem with space exploration is that it implies significant air pollution. This affects people who come into contact with some of the emitted fumes. Especially people who live close to these facilities may suffer quite a lot from fumes in the atmosphere. In fact, to launch and production of a rocket, it takes large amounts of fossil fuels. Particle pollution is closely related to the air pollution problem. In fact, if large amounts of fossil fuels are burnt, large amounts of fine particles are emitted into our atmosphere. These particles cause several pulmonary issues like asthma or lung cancer. Another disadvantage of space travel is that those space missions often do not deliver any results. In fact, all attempts to find extraterrestrial life has failed up to this point in time, and there is little reason to believe that this might change soon. Now Mahalakshmi will be telling you more points.
While some scientists claim that space travel does not lead to any severe long-term health issues, other scientists claim that the radiation must be a severe problem. Chances to suffer from cancer is higher for astronauts compared to the average person in the society. Hence, there is a health issue involved. Many people who believe in God do not advocate space exploration at all, since they feel humans should stay on the Earth rather than explore outer space. Space missions may also be problematic in a religious point of view.
While space exploration can be extremely helpful for big countries, other small countries may be greatly harmed by it. For example, if a few well-known huge countries control space and extract resources, other countries will be likely to lose their competitiveness in the global market. This can also lead to higher wealth and income inequality across the planet. There is also no guarantee that extraterrestrial life forms will be peaceful. In fact, those life forms may have the potential power to wipe out humanity, and therefore, exploring space may also not be a great idea in this regard. That's it about the advantages and disadvantages of space exploration. Hope you learned a lot from it and enjoyed it.
Thank you.